Good morning, boys and girls. So today we're going to learn a strategy because a lot of you guys have been coming up to me and you're reading really difficult books, which is awesome because you're reading books that are challenging you. But some of you have been coming up and telling me, Miss Kelly, I do not know what this word means, and that's okay. So today I'm going to teach you a strategy for looking at those really hard words that we don't know. And this strategy is called looking at the patterns of letters in a word that we already know. And really good readers always use this strategy, and whenever they see a hard word, they always use this strategy to look at the patterns of letters that they already know. Okay, so we're going to read a book called The Diggingest Dog, and it's by Al Perkins, illustrated by Eric Gurney. And we're going to read this book, and near the end of it, there's a couple really hard words that I don't know, and we're going to take a look at that and use our strategy today. The Diggingest Dog. I was the saddest dog you could ever see, sad because no one wanted me. The pet shop window was my jail. The sign behind me said, "For sale." I was tied to a bare, hard floor of stone. I could not even dig for a bone. I was living all of my life alone, a dog that no one wanted to own. And then one day at 4:30, Sammy Brown came in the door. Sam took one look at me and cried, "Why are you tied up here inside?" I've always wanted a dog like you, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll take you out to the farm with me. You'll play outdoors where you should be. I felt as happy as a pup when Sam paid the man and picked me up. He rubbed my ears, he scratched my head. "I think I'll call you Duke," he said. Sam gave me a collar, he gave me a lead. We left that shop at tremendous speed. We went a long way out of town. We came to the farm of Sammy Brown. It was the nicest place I'd ever seen. A pretty white house and a field of green. And in the shade of the apple tree, a special doghouse just for me. Next morning, while Sam did his chores, he let me run and play outdoors. I've never played outdoors before. I've always lived on that hard floor. I never run on nice soft ground. Now I barked with joy as I ran around. Sam looked at me and scratched his head. "Duke, you need some friends," he said. He blew his whistle, he blew a blast, and many dogs came running fast. I never met a dog before. Now I was meeting 6 or more. They walked around and looked at me. They looked me over carefully. Then at last I heard them say, "He's one of us. He'll be okay." One dog, who wasn't very big, suddenly began to dig. The others started digging too, but that was something I could not do. I never learned to dig in that store. How could I on that hard stone floor? I tried to dig, but alas I couldn't. I wiggled my paws just wouldn't. I fell on my ear, I fell on my face, I fell on myself all over the place. The others said, "Duke may be big, but he's no good, he cannot dig." They stuck their noses in the air, they walked away, and they left me there. "I'll teach you, Duke," cried Sammy Brown. "I'll show you how to dig deep down." He crouched beside me with his hand. He dug a hole in a pile of sand. I tried it too, but still I couldn't. I wiggled my paws just wouldn't. I never learned to dig in that store. How could I on that hard stone floor? Sammy sighed. I almost cried. My eyes and nose were full of dirt. My paws and claws and elbows hurt. I had a pain across my back. I knew I'd never get the knack. Sam felt sad and I felt bad. If only I could make him glad. We both knew I'd never get it right. Sam and I couldn't sleep that night. So when the sun rose in the sky, I thought I'd give it one more try. I wiggled one paw, I saw it could. I wiggled the other, I saw it would. I could dig with my paws, I could dig with my claws. I felt no pain across my back. I knew at last I had the knack. Sammy Brown looked out at me. He saw me digging happily. "Good for you, Duke," Sammy cried. "I knew you'd do it if you tried." So I dug farther, I dug faster. I dug and dug to please my master. I dug up grass, I dug up weeds, I dug up daisies, I dug up seeds. I dug up the fence, I dug up the gates, I dug up the garden of Mrs. Thwaites. I dug up the rooster, I dug up the hens, I dug up the sheep and pigs in their pens. I dug and dug, I couldn't stop, I dug up the barber in his shop. I dug up Mr. Rodney Thayer sitting in the barber's chair. I dug my way right through the town, I dug a lot of down. When I look at this page, I see a word that I do not know, and I know that's been happening to a lot of you guys too. So I'm going to write this word over here on my paper. So this is my word. Now when I look at that whole word, I really don't know what it means. And it makes me a little nervous, but I'm going to teach you a strategy, and we're going to look at this word, and instead of looking at the whole big word in a big part, we're going to look for any letters, any combinations of letters that we already know. So I'm going to look at this word, and I'm going through it. I see an ing. And boys and girls, do you know what the ing sound makes? Because I know we learned this earlier. The ing makes the ing sound. And then I see a little s attached to the end, so it's ings. Ings. So I already know, look at that, almost half the word. So I know it starts with a b, the b, and it ends with ings. So when I say this word, b-ings, bings. And now I'm going to read the book again. I'm going to go back in and see if it makes sense when I look for those letters that I already know. I dug my way right through the town. I dug a lot of buildings down. Buildings. So look at that. I was able to look at that really hard word that at first made me a little nervous, and I saw some patterns of letters that I already knew, like the ing, and it helped me to look at what that word means. We're going to keep reading. I was having so much fun. I dug up Highway 81. I came to a hill, I dug to the top, but all of a sudden I had to stop. Right in front of me, looking down, there stood my master, Sammy Brown. Sam didn't smile or pat my head. He only glared at me and said, I'm sending you back to that animal store. They'll tie you to that hard stone floor, and you'll never, never dig anymore. I couldn't run, I couldn't hide. Dogs came at me from every side. And then I knew. Now there's a word between that, and then blank, I knew. And that looks like another word that I don't know, and it makes me a little nervous. So I'm going to write this down again, and I'm going to ask for your help this time. So I have this word, and when I look at this word, I don't know what it says because it's really long and there's a lot of letters. But can I get anyone, can you put your thumbs up when you look at this? If you see any patterns of letters that you think we already know how to say, a couple words or a couple letters put together. Oh, yep, I see that people have their thumbs up, and what do you see? You see the ly. We did learn the ly already, and ly says Lee. So we have this big word in Lee. So we already kind of know part of this word because we already see the patterns of letters. And we know it starts with a s because we see the s, and we know in the middle there's two d's, so we have the d. So it was st-lee, stilly. And now we're going to look back at our book, and maybe we can put it together because it's a pretty difficult word, but when you see the patterns of letters, it kind of makes it a little easier. And then stilly, I knew. And then suddenly, the word is suddenly, I knew. There was just one thing for me to do. I ran away from Sammy Brown. I dug a hole that went straight down. I left him standing up on top. I dug and dug, I didn't stop. How deep I dug, I could not tell, but soon I found I dug a well. Mud and water up to my chin. What a fix I now was in. I started to sink, I started to yelp. Help, I yelped, help, help, help. I could hear them way above my head. I could hear every word they said. One dog growled, he wrecked our town. This serves him right, just let him drown. But Sam cried, Duke, you've been bad, but you've made me sad instead of glad. But we're not going to let you die. We'll get you out. At least we'll try. Then at last I heard him shout, maybe we can pull you out. Slowly, slowly down they came, each dog part of a long dog chain. I reached up, I touched a nose, I felt them lift me by my toes. Slowly, slowly, bit by bit, they dragged me up out of the pit. I thanked the dogs and Sammy Brown, and then I started back toward town. I knew I had to dig once more to fix things up as they were before. That's what I did. I dug back gates. I dug back the garden of Mrs. Thwaites. I dug back the roosters and the hens. I dug back all the pigs in their pens. I dug all day in the summer sun. I dug back Highway 81. I dug back everything in town, everything that I knocked down. Today when I dig, well, I'm careful now. I'm useful too. Sam lets me plow. He'll never send me to that store or tie me up on a hard stone floor. My dog friends watch and wonder why they can't dig as well as I. The end. All right, so today when we read that book, at kind of near the end, we saw these two words, buildings and suddenly, that we now know. And at first when we came across it, when we were reading, I was super confused. They were too big and it was a difficult word for me. But when we looked at the word a little closer, we saw these patterns of letters that we already knew, like the ing sound and the li. So today, when you go back in your independent reading and you're reading your books and you come across a word that you don't know, I want you to try the strategy that we did today. And I want you to look at that word and see if there's any patterns of letters that you already know, and then you can try and sound it out. So today, while you're reading an independent reading, bring some sticky notes, and if you come across a word that you don't know and you used our strategy of looking for patterns of letters, I want you to put a sticky note on that page. And then when we have share time after independent reading, I want to hear what kind of words that you guys looked at and what patterns of letters that you saw, okay? So the first people that are going to go back to their seats are the people with the book nooks in the very back of the classroom.